So, here we are. We've just come from an unsuccessful trip to the mud house. Brian, to understate a little bit, Brian did not like it. It had soda there, so it couldn't have been a cafe. And it didn't have baristas, and the coffee was regular when he asked for regular.
They didn't accept credit cards.
They didn't accept credit cards. It was noisy.
They automatically put cream and sugar in my coffee.
Oh, now we got them going. Now, who's getting videotaped here anyhow, Brian? That's what I want to know. So, don't get started, and don't get Brian started. Because Brian is selling siding.
I'm not selling siding.
He is selling siding, but he's not selling any today, and today should be his big day. So I'm a little worried about him, because Brian, and I'm not going to say this to anybody else, and if you're watching this, you have to keep it secret. Brian is unemployable. Basically unemployable. And I should know. There is nobody else who is such an authority on unemployability. I have virtually cornered the market on unemployability.
Last time Neil had a job, there were no cell phones.
There were no cell phones.
No.
So,
everyone was dialing a phone like this. That's the last time Neil had a job.
Right. There was no linotype. This is the Gutenberg, Greenberg, and Greenspan Geithner galaxy. That's what's happened.
The last time Neil had a job, if you wanted him to make a copy of something, he'd have to go get his mimeograph.
Carbon paper. Get the carbon paper. Get me my carbon paper. That's how we do it. And it worked. It worked just fine. And people had jobs in those days. Unlike Brian, who's if he doesn't sell soon, if he doesn't sell at least one side, he has his value proposition is that you can side your house one side at a time. So he is selling sides. But he's having a little trouble because who would want one side of their house sided? I mean, this is not going to be the McDonald's of the siding business. Is my prediction. He doesn't have a lot of appointments, but this is going to seem like a lot 2 months from now.
When I'm unemployed.
When you're selling half sidings, you could do half. You could do like windows. You could side a window.
That's great.
That would be good. I think we're onto some business angles. You want to give people a lot of choices.
Hey Neil, why don't you let everyone know that you're going to be knocking on people's doors looking for a place to live.
Oh right, a place to live.
Yeah.
If anybody would like to know, the Cambridge Housing Authority, inexplicably but inerrantly, has denied my eligibility for housing. I cannot believe it. I will appeal. I want you to know I will appeal. And like the patents on the burqa jeans, we will be triumphant. And
actually, the patents on those jeans were not triumphant.
Brian is still trying to sell siding. He feels like the only way he can make a connection is to disagree with you. So that's the kind of connection Brian makes. So you would think, as a salesman, that as a strategy would not be your best strategy. But it seems to be working for Brian. But that's good, because we won't be going to any cafes real soon.
Not in this part of town, anyway.
Probably not in any part of town. Because Brian's going to be moving to Lawrence.
Yeah.
At the center of an industrial wasteland. It's good. But he'll have 24/7 hot water.
Mhm.
24/7 hot water. He'll have internet connection. He'll have
Carrier
all his data mined.
Yes. I thought our data was private in this country.
Your data is private, Brian, because nobody wants to know. There are certain people that said, we don't even want to know this guy. We're going to exclude him from the files.
Hey, what do you think about the NSA leaker?
Eddie Snowden. Eddie Snowden is a hero. He's a personal hero. He's like Bradley and Eli and Peyton for me. The Manning brothers, I'm talking about.
Yes.
Here.
Yes.
At Peyton's place.
Mhm.
Where we get we go and we hook up with the placebos.
That's great.
It's a good place for placebos. And for mana and nectar. Because here at Hamlin, at the Buddhist Alzheimer's Home for the Hospiceless, here at the Buddhist Alzheimer's Home for the Hospiceless, it's okay if you don't remember your name. Because our non-physical staff stands ready to help you. You will need help at some point. It may be now, it may be later. In Brian's case, you may need help and not know it, and you will only find out later.
I have a question.
What's your question?
Now that CO2 has reached 400 parts per million, will that be creating any new jobs in climate control aggregation?
Climate control aggregation. Ooh, I like that. That's a new field. It's a new field pioneered by my own cafe-less Brian here. His problem is that he's so far ahead of the curve that he gets the backlash before he gets the forelash. And then he gets foreclosed upon. He's part of that 50% of the sad sacks who are foreclosed upon, rather than part of us 1% who get bailed when our derivatives go south. Because we're systemically, I am personally systemically important. Too big to fail.
You're too big to fail?
I am too big to fail. It'll never happen.
Have you been following the Senate race?
The Senate race. Did Elizabeth Warren win?
No.
The other Senate race.
The newer Senate race with Markey.
Jerry Gomez.
Gomez and Markey.
Marky Mark?
Yeah.
I know him. I'm voting for Marky Mark. No way I would not vote for Marky Mark.
Mm-hmm.
And because Marky Mark is going to put us on a mark-to-market situation. And you know what that means? It'll all be, in my herbal administration, it's all going to be Libor rated. And ISDA fixed. Fixated, really, at the federal funds windows.
What?
And the discount windows.
What are you talking about?
What am I talking about? I'm only talking about the most basic fundamental marketplace of capitalism. The Libor rates and the ISDA, who set the rates for derivatives. And they get fixed. But they get fixed fraudulently. Because according to Greenspan's Griftopia, there are certain people who get a minute between the quote and the buying and selling price. And if you computerize everything, you can make a lot of trades in a minute. If you know how it's going to turn out, it's almost foolproof. If you're a long-term capital management.
What if you're just an average citizen like you or I?
Speak for yourself. I'm not an average citizen. I'm one of the 1%.
The bottom 1%.
On holiday. On holiday. I'm just slumming it here with you today, Brian, because I want to know how people such as yourself, people who are in the 50% of the sad sacks, 50% of the suckers, 50% of the foreclosed upon, who took out subprime mortgages. I want you to know that all of that has helped me. It's given the government money to bail me out with. Because I bet on some derivatives. And I didn't realize that they were connected to some other derivatives that circled around to the original fraudulent derivatives that I made up all by my lonesome.
It sounds
when
like,
I was working for Goldman Sachs.
It sounds like you're making up pretty much everything right now.
I am the London whale.
Oh, yeah.
The London whale is me. And I may have lost my job, but I'm still making $1 million a month. And that ain't nothing to sneeze at. To make $1 million a month, Brian would have to size every house in Dorchester. Every house in Dorchester would need siding for Brian to make $1 million. So, we could have the federal government, we could have a special, we'll make a bill, a special bill, so the federal government will size every house in Dorchester. And Brian can be Mr. 5%. He'll get 5% of every siding.
Say goodbye, Neil.
Say goodbye, Neil. What do you mean, say goodbye, Neil? I was just getting underway. Om. Om.